I'm going to talk about how to compare your financial aid offers. Students will receive financial aid offers from all schools to which they've been admitted and to which they've applied for financial aid. So you have to go through the application process for each school and be sure to include each school on the FAFSA, as well as any other supporting documentation or additional financial aid applications that they might require. And then once you've applied and been admitted, you'll receive a financial aid offer letter by mail, electronically, or sometimes both. So at Framingham State, we do send a hard copy home in the mail with our 8-page booklet explaining all of the details and terms and conditions of the financial aid offer. We also upload an electronic copy to the student portal, so you'll get both a hard copy and electronic copy from us. Once all of your award letters are received, you should do a comparison to determine the net price of each school. So determine the net price. You're going to take the cost of attendance, subtract all gift aid, so this would be grants and scholarships, free money, and then that will get you your net price. The cost of attendance is made up of both direct and indirect costs. So the direct costs are items that are billed by the school. So this generally includes tuition and fees, as well as food and housing. So you will get a bill each semester for these items. There are also indirect costs associated with being a college student. So these are non-billed costs, but that you'll also have to take into consideration. So the first is books and supplies. This will include a laptop that meets the technology standards of the school, textbooks, art supplies, if you're taking an art class, pens, pencils, calculator, things like that. The next is transportation. This could vary from school to school depending on how far from the school you live, whether it's a car ride or sometimes a plane ride away. And then there are personal expenses, which are, just your miscellaneous expenses such as your toiletries, clothing, takeout, things like that. Okay, so you're not going to get a bill for these items, but they are things that you do have to take into consideration in that total cost of attendance. And then in your financial aid offer, your offer will likely include a combination of these three things. So the first is gift aid. So this is free money in the form of grants and scholarships that does not need to be repaid. So grants are typically need-based, based on the information on the FAFSA form, based on financial need and your family's financial circumstances. And generally, scholarships are determined by the admissions office based on merit in the student's grades from high school. Okay, so this is the free money that does not need to be repaid. The next are student loans. So this is considered financial aid, and it is a loan offer that does need to be repaid later on with interest. And then the third type of financial aid is work study. So this is money that needs to be earned. The students do need to search and apply for the jobs. So it's basically an opportunity to earn a part-time job in one of the departments or offices on campus. And the students are paid in the form of a paycheck, either weekly or bi-weekly. And this does not come off of the tuition and fee bill. This is typically money that's used to pay for those miscellaneous personal expenses that I talked about in the cost of attendance. Here is a sample financial aid offer letter from Framingham State. So we're very proud about the transparency of our offers. We really clearly spell everything out as clearly as possible. So here I've highlighted all of the gift aid that this particular student was offered. So they received a presidential scholarship from admissions. They have a Pell Grant, a Mass Grant, a housing grant because they're going to be living on campus, and a Mass Grant Plus. So these are a combination of institutional, federal, and state gift aid. Okay, and the total amount of gift aid is $21,090. Then you're going to subtract that from the direct cost. Okay, so our tuition and fees for 26-27 are expected to be $12,590 for the year. And our room and board the average is going to be $16,240 for the year. And again, that's the average on the room and board. Okay, if you choose a standard double, it could be, less expensive, but we use the average in the estimated direct cost figure. So if you take the direct cost of $28,830 and subtract all of the gift aid that we offered, the net direct cost is $7,740. Okay. So if you only accept the gift aid, the free money, that is the net cost to attend. If you choose to accept the gift aid and the loan offer, the net direct cost is $2,240. Okay. So we do separate that out for you in our offer letter very clearly. Here's a sample offer letter from another institution. So you can see this student received a scholarship, an institutional grant, as well as a Pell Grant and Mass Grant from this school. So they actually got more gift aid at this school. They got $27,715 in free money. However, you can see that the direct cost of this school is significantly higher. It costs $53,170 to attend. So the net cost here, when only considering the gift aid, is $25,455. Okay, so even though this school offered quite a bit more financial aid, because their direct costs are so much higher, it would be significantly more expensive to attend this institution. And then also you'll notice at the bottom here, the net direct cost figure, they only include their figure with the loan offer as well. Okay, so the net direct cost that they're calculating here does include the loan, and it's $19,955. So you can see it would be a lot more to attend this school, even though they did give more in financial aid. Schools generally award a student's federal direct loan eligibility upfront. So you will likely notice that most, if not all, of your financial aid offers will include a $5,500 direct loan. That is the standard amount for a first-year dependent student. If you demonstrate financial need, up to $3,500 of that may be subsidized. Okay, and the student is the sole borrower of this loan. No credit check is required. In 25-26, the fixed interest rate is 6.39%. The interest rates are set yearly. They are fixed, so the 26-27 interest rate will likely be announced sometime in June. So students can get $5,500 in the first year, $6,500 in the second year, and $7,500 in the third and fourth years. So if a student graduates in 4 years and accepts their full loan amount each year, the total debt when they graduate will be $27,000. And then the loans go into repayment 6 months after a student graduates or leaves school. Okay, so these are the standard loans that are included in a financial aid offer. You do want to pay close attention to other loans that are packaged up front, what the source is, what the interest rate is, and the terms and conditions. Framingham State also participates in the Massachusetts No Interest Loan Program. So some students do qualify for that loan as well. But those are the only two loans that we, package upfront to those who qualify. Okay. So if other schools are packaging other loans, you do just want to carefully investigate, exactly what those loans are. So once you get all of your offer letters, you should determine the direct cost that I just explained. But I also find it helpful to have a comparison worksheet and plug all of the numbers in to really look at a side-by-side comparison at exactly how much each school is truly going to cost. And so you also have all of that information in one place and you can see it clearly side by side. So this is just a sample comparison worksheet and the different things that you would want to look at. So if there is a balance due after financial aid is applied, there are different ways to cover that net cost. And most families these days are using a combination approach. Most families cannot just write one check and be done with it. Most of our families are using a combination to cover that balance due. First is the interest-free monthly payment plan. So all schools at this point should have some kind of payment plan option that allows families to pay in installments interest-free. So we recommend putting as much as you possibly can on this payment plan because it really can reduce your borrowing. And it's typically a 10-month payment plan. If you can't afford to put the entire balance on that payment plan or pay out of pocket another way, there are, additional loan options that families can consider. There's a Parent Plus loan option for parents of dependent students, as well as different private alternative loans in which the student is usually the primary borrower and the parent, but would require like a creditworthy co-borrower. Okay, so, but again, you would have to do kind of your own research on the different lenders, interest rates, and loan options to really figure out, what would be best for your family situation. Families should start having honest, open conversations about affordability as early as possible. So once you determine the net price of each school, you want to think about, who is going to pay for the college cost. You want to consider the number of children in the family going to college. You really want to think about this holistically and not just getting through that first semester and figuring out the rest later. You want to think about the number of children in the family going to college. So if this is your first child going to school and you have two more that'll be behind them shortly, if you do need to borrow, do you really want to take on that debt, each year for each child? You want to also do a 4-year financing plan. So think about it again, big picture, all 4 years. Check with the schools to ensure that institutional aid is renewable. So you have to reapply for need-based financial aid by filing the FAFSA each year, but you'll want to make sure that the other sources of aid are renewable each year. Like, for example, if you do have a merit scholarship, is that all 4 years? What are the requirements to keep it all 4 years? Do you have to keep a certain grade point average to renew that scholarship? And then also think in terms of that total debt, 4 years of school, and also the student's potential starting salary. If the student, is going to be a teacher, at Framingham, if you accept your direct loans, you'll have that $27,000 in debt. But if you're considering a high cost private institution, you could be looking at double or sometimes triple or more in debt. And if you're going to be a teacher, are you going to have the ability to comfortably be able to make those monthly payments when you get your first job out of school? Teachers also require a master's degree, so you want to think about that. Bachelor's degree debt is only part of the picture if your profession requires a graduate degree, master's or beyond. But if you're going to be, in a high cost, high salary profession, and you'll be able to comfortably take on debt, then maybe going, to your dream school would be worth it. Taking on that extra debt, if you're going to be able to pay that off. So these are all just things to consider when you're choosing your school. And then, of course, if you have special circumstances not reflected on the FAFSA, contact the financial aid office to discuss your options. Circumstances could include, but are not limited to, a loss of income or employment, one-time income that won't be repeated, high out-of-pocket medical expenses that were paid and not covered by insurance, or a recent change in parent marital status or household size. So any of these factors may increase your eligibility for financial aid, but if any adjustments are going to be made, documentation is very important. So you definitely want to keep that in mind. But even if you don't have one of these circumstances, it never hurts to ask. If you really had your heart set on a certain school that it's just simply out of reach for you, it doesn't hurt to ask, is there anything else available? Because the worst they can say is no. But it never ever hurts to ask. That's always my my philosophy. So that concludes my presentation. If you have any questions, certainly email us at financialaid@framingham.edu, and we will be happy to answer any questions that you have.